I never loved you, Elena. Not for a single day. 11 months of marriage. 11 months of silence at the breakfast table of cold sheets of pretending. And Dante Salvatore said it like he was ordering coffee. Elena Bellini didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there holding the coffee cup her mother gave her as a wedding gift, and for the first time in her life, she felt the weight of a woman who had nothing left to lose. Before we go any further, please hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments what city you are watching from tonight. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The coffee cup shattered on the marble floor. Elena hadn't meant to drop it. Her fingers just opened, like her body understood before her mind did. 11 months of marriage, and the man sitting across from her at that long, ridiculous dining table had just told her the truth she'd been too afraid to ask about. Dante didn't flinch when the porcelain broke. He didn't even look down at the pieces. He folded his newspaper once precisely the way he folded everything in his life, his shirts, his secrets, his wife, and took a slow sip of his espresso. "Maria will clean it up," he said. Elena stared at him. Her hands were still hovering in the air where the cup used to be. "That's what you have to say to me. What else is there to say? You just told me our entire marriage was a lie, Dante." He finally looked at her. Those dark eyes, the ones that used to make her knees weak at the altar 11 months ago. Now they looked like two closed doors. "I told you the truth," he said. "There is a difference." Elena felt something crack inside her chest. Not her heart. Her heart had cracked a long time ago, somewhere around month 3 when she realized her husband slept in a separate wing of the house. No, this was something deeper. This was pride. This was the last thing she had left, and he had just taken it from her over breakfast. "Say it again." Her voice was shaking, but she didn't care. "Look at me and say it again." "Elena, say it, Dante." He set the espresso down. His jaw tightened just slightly. It was the first real reaction she'd seen from him in weeks. "I never loved you," he said. "I married you because your father asked me to, because he had something I needed, and because protecting you kept his people loyal to me after he died. That's all this ever was." The silence that followed was the loudest thing Elena had ever heard. Somewhere in the house, a grandfather clock ticked. Maria, the housekeeper, was probably listening from the kitchen. The 2 guards outside the dining room door were almost certainly listening too. Everyone in that house heard the moment Elena Bellini's marriage officially died, and not one of them moved. 11 months, Elena whispered. "I beg your pardon." 11 months, Dante. I have been your wife for 11 months. I sat next to you at your mother's funeral. I held your hand when they lowered her casket. And you're telling me that the whole time I was just insurance. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic. Her voice cracked the word in half. She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the marble, and the sound echoed through the vaulted ceiling like a gunshot. Dante watched her, calm, controlled, the same way he watched his men when they made mistakes. "You told me you would learn to love me," Elena said, "on our wedding night. You sat on the edge of that bed, and you told me, 'Give me time, Elena.' Do you remember that?" "I remember." "Was that a lie too?" He hesitated, just for a second, but Elena saw it. "It wasn't a lie, he said carefully. "It was a kindness. A kindness. You were 23 years old. Your father had just died. You were terrified. It would have been cruel to tell you the truth that night. So you waited 11 months to be cruel." "I waited 11 months because it didn't matter." And there it was, the real knife. Not the words themselves, but the way he said them, like he was explaining arithmetic to a child. It didn't matter. She didn't matter. The vows didn't matter. The way she cried herself to sleep for the first month didn't matter. The way she'd slowly, stupidly started to hope didn't matter. Elena sat back down. Her legs simply stopped working. "Why are you telling me now?" "Who are you?" Dante picked up his espresso again. "Because Alessandro Russo is coming to dinner Friday, and I need you to smile at him. I need you to look like a happy wife, and I don't want you to mistake anything I do in front of him for affection. I thought it was time you understood what this is. So this is a business briefing. This is a courtesy. A courtesy. Yes, Elena, a courtesy. Most men in my position wouldn't have told you at all." Her laugh came out dry and cracked like something dying in a desert. Should I thank you, Dante? Should I write you a card? He didn't answer. He just finished his espresso, stood up and buttoned the top button of his suit jacket. He was leaving. He was actually going to walk out of the room after gutting her over a plate of breakfast pastries. Where are you going? She asked. I have a meeting in the city. Of course you do. Elena. He paused at the doorway. Wait, he didn't turn around. Try to rest today, you look tired. And then he was gone. She sat there for a long time. She didn't know how long. Maria came in at some point, quiet as a ghost, and started sweeping up the pieces of the coffee cup. She didn't say anything. She didn't look at Elena. The woman had worked in that house for 30 years. She'd probably seen worse. Maria, the old woman, straightened the broom still in her hands. Yes, Signora? Did you know? Maria's eyes dropped to the floor. How long has everyone known Maria? Signora, please. How long? Maria set the broom against the wall. She walked over to Elena, and for just a moment, the old woman put her hand on Elena's shoulder. It was the first human touch Elena had felt in weeks. Since before the wedding, Maria said quietly. But Signora, there are things you do not know about this family. Things your father did not tell you. You need to be careful, today especially. What do you mean? Maria glanced at the door, then she leaned in close. Your father left something for you in the safe behind the painting in his old study. Dante does not know about it. He thinks he has everything, but he doesn't. Your father told me if the day ever came, I was to tell you. I think today is the day. Elena's breath caught. Maria. The combination is your mother's birthday. He said you would know which one. Maria squeezed her shoulder one more time. Signora, whatever you do with it, be careful. Some truths can kill a person. And then she picked up the broom and kept sweeping as if the conversation had never happened. Elena didn't go to her father's study right away. She went to her bedroom first. She sat on the edge of the enormous bed she had slept in, alone for most of her marriage, and she stared at her own reflection in the mirror across the room. The woman staring back at her looked like a stranger. Who are you, she thought. Who did you let yourself become? She was 24 years old. She had a degree in art history she'd never used. She spoke 3 languages. Her mother had once told her when she was 10 years old that she was going to be somebody the world remembered. And here she was, a wife who wasn't a wife, a trophy on a shelf, a courtesy. She reached up and took off her wedding ring. It was heavier than she remembered. 4 carats of cold, perfect diamond. She turned it over in her palm. Then she set it down on the nightstand very carefully and she went to her father's study. The painting was of a hunting scene. Dante had hated it. Too old-fashioned, he'd said. Get rid of it. But Elena had refused. It was the only piece of her father that was still in the house, and she had fought Dante on it the one and only time she had ever fought him on anything. Now she understood why her father had chosen that particular painting. She pulled it away from the wall. The safe was behind it, just like Maria said. Her mother's birthday. Her mother had been born in June 14th, 1962. Elena's fingers hesitated over the dial. He said you would know which one. Her mother had always joked that she'd had 2 birthdays, the real one, and the one on her fake passport from when Elena's father had smuggled her out of Sicily as a young bride. The fake one was September 9th, 1964. Elena tried the fake one first. The safe clicked open. Inside was a manila envelope, thick yellowed at the edges, and a letter with her name written on it in her father's handwriting. Her hands started to shake. She opened the letter first. My Elena, it began. If you are reading this, then I am gone and you have finally seen Dante Salvatore for what he is. Forgive me, my daughter. I knew what he was when I gave you to him. I had no choice. The family I built had enemies that were going to come for you the moment I was buried, and Dante was the only man strong enough to keep you alive. But he was never going to love you, Elena. That was not what I was buying. Inside this envelope is everything I could not tell you while I was living. Routes, payments, names. The parts of the Salvatore empire that even Dante does not know belong to someone else. Your father was not the saint you believed him to be, but I was also not his puppet. I kept insurance, Elena, and now the insurance belongs to you. Use it to be free. Do not try to destroy him. He will win that fight. Use it to walk away. Use it to become the woman your mother knew you could be. I love you, Piccola. I have always loved you, and I am sorry. Papa Elena sat down on the floor of her father's study. She sat there, and for the first time since Dante had said the words that morning, she cried. Not loud, not messy, just steady tears one after another, the kind of crying a woman does when she finally admits to herself that nobody is coming to save her. And then she stopped crying because the letter was right. Nobody was coming to save her. She was going to have to save herself. She opened the envelope. She didn't understand most of what was in it, not at first. There were names she recognized: senators, a judge, a cardinal. There were routes marked with dates. There were bank account numbers in Switzerland and the Caymans. And there was a small leather notebook, the kind her father used to carry in his inside pocket, filled with his tight, precise handwriting. She flipped to the last page, and that was when she saw a name she was not expecting. Salvatore Marco, paid, $3.2 million, New York, October 2019. Marco was Dante's father. He had died in October 2019. Officially, he'd had a heart attack in his sleep. Unofficially, Elena had always assumed it was one of the Russos. That's what everyone whispered at the funeral. That's what Dante had told her the one time he'd ever talked about his father at all. But her father had written paid. Her father had paid for Marco Salvatore's death. And if Dante ever found that notebook, if Dante ever learned that Elena's father had been the one who killed his father, Dante would not just stop being her husband. Dante would kill her. Elena closed the notebook very slowly. Her hands were not shaking anymore. She was past shaking now. She was somewhere much quieter and much colder. She looked at her watch. It was 11:47 a.m. Dante had said he had a meeting in the city. He would be gone at least until evening. Maria would cover for her for as long as she could. The guards at the gate changed shift at noon, and for 15 minutes the east gate was unmonitored. Elena knew because she had watched it every day for 11 months, even though she had never admitted to herself why she was watching it. She had 12 minutes. 12 minutes to pack a bag, take the envelope, leave the ring, and walk out of the Salvatore estate for the last time. She went back to her bedroom. She pulled a small leather travel bag out of the closet. She threw in a change of clothes, the small amount of cash she had hidden in her tampon box, $5,000. She had been skimming from the household account for months without knowing why her passport and the locket her mother had given her on her 16th birthday. She stopped at the nightstand. She looked at the wedding ring one more time, and then she picked up a piece of her wedding stationery, the cream-colored paper with Elena Bellini Salvatore embossed in gold at the top, and she wrote 3 words on it. You were right. She folded the paper, set it next to the ring, and she left. Maria was waiting at the servant's door by the kitchen. She had a coat, one of her own plain black wool, and a scarf to cover Elena's hair. The East Gate, Maria whispered, handing her the coat. There's a taxi waiting on Via Vicenza. Don't tell the driver your name. Don't use your phone. And Signora, yes. Maria pressed something into Elena's hand, a small silver cross on a thin chain. This was your mother's. She gave it to me the day you were born. She said if Elena ever needs it, you give it to her. I think she knew. Elena didn't have words. She just nodded, and she hugged the old woman for one long second, and then she slipped out the servant's door into the garden. The East Gate was 30 yards away. She walked fast, but not too fast. Head down, scarf up. She could hear her own heart in her ears. She could hear the gravel under her shoes. She could hear a gardener somewhere behind her whistling, unaware that the signora of the house was walking out of her marriage with a bag in her hand. She reached the gate. It was unmonitored, just like she'd known it would be. She pushed it open. And for one terrible second, one second that stretched out into what felt like an hour, Elena Bellini stood with one foot inside the Salvatore estate and one foot on the street, and she thought, what if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? What if he finds me? And then she thought about Dante's voice that morning. It didn't matter. She thought about 11 months of sleeping alone. She thought about her father's letter. She thought about her mother who had once told her that she was going to be somebody the world remembered. She stepped through the gate. The taxi was exactly where Maria had said it would be. The driver didn't say anything when she got in. He just looked at her in the rearview mirror, and he nodded once, and he pulled away from the curb. Elena watched the Salvatore estate shrink behind her through the back window. The tall iron gates, the cypress trees, the long white driveway where 11 months ago she had walked in a wedding dress, a stranger on her father's arm, 23 years old and terrified and hopeful. The gate swung shut. She didn't know it yet. The taxi was still turning the corner. The driver was still silent. Her hands were still clutching the silver cross in her pocket. but she would never see those gates again. Not from the inside. And somewhere in a restaurant in the city, Dante Salvatore was sitting down at a corner booth across from a man he needed to impress, glancing at his watch, expecting his wife to be at home. He had no idea she was already gone. He had no idea what she was carrying. He had no idea that the last thing he had said to her that morning, "Try to rest today, you look tired," was the last thing he would ever say to her as her husband. The taxi turned onto the main road, and Elena Bellini, for the first time in 11 months, for the first time since her father had died, maybe for the first time in her entire life, breathed in all the way to the bottom of her lungs. Then she closed her eyes, and the envelope on her lap, heavy with her father's secrets, felt like the only real thing she owned in the world. The taxi driver finally spoke after 15 minutes of silence. "Signora, where am I taking you?" Elena opened her eyes. She hadn't thought that far. She'd thought about leaving. She had not thought about arriving. "Just drive," she said, "north, away from the city center." "Signora, I need an address. The dispatcher. I'll pay you in cash. Triple the meter. Please, just keep driving." The driver looked at her in the mirror. He was older, maybe 60, with tired eyes and a wedding band on his finger. He saw her. He saw all of her. The good coat that wasn't hers. The scarf pulled too tight. The shaking hands clutching a leather bag in her lap. He had driven a lot of women in his life, and he knew what a woman running looked like. "Okay, Signora," he said quietly. "North," Elena exhaled. She pulled her phone out of her pocket. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Maria had told her not to use it. Dante had bought her that phone. Dante paid for the service on that phone. Dante had people who could find a phone within 30 seconds of it being turned on. She rolled the window down and dropped it into the street. It bounced twice on the asphalt behind them and disappeared. "Signora," the driver said, raising his eyebrows in the mirror, "I don't want to be found. Whoever you're running from, Signora, are they dangerous?" Elena almost laughed. "Yes." "How dangerous?" "You don't want to know." The driver was quiet for a moment. Then he reached under his seat and pulled out a second phone. An old one, a flip phone with a scratched screen. He handed it back to her without looking. "Prepaid," he said. "No name. I keep it for emergencies. You take it." "Why would you do that for me?" "Signora, 30 years ago, my sister married a man who told her she was lucky he was willing to have her. One night she ran. Nobody helped her. They found her in a ditch outside Bergamo 3 days later." He met her eyes in the mirror. "So today I help you. That's why." Elena's throat closed. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet. Tell me where I'm taking you, and let's see if we can get you there alive." Across the city, Dante Salvatore was laughing. It was a rare sound. His men at the table noticed it, the way his shoulders loosened, the way the skin around his eyes crinkled. Alessandro Russo had just told a story about his grandson, 3 years old, who had tried to pay for gelato with a wedding ring he had stolen off his grandmother's dresser. Dante was laughing because it was a good story. He was laughing because the meeting was going well. He was laughing because Russo had just agreed in principle to a truce that Dante had been working toward for 2 years. He was laughing because for exactly 43 minutes he had forgotten about the conversation at breakfast. Then his phone buzzed on the table. Dante glanced down. It was Maria. The laugh died on his face. Maria did not call him. Maria had never called him. In 11 months of marriage, the housekeeper had never once picked up a telephone to speak to Dante Salvatore directly. She communicated through the butler, through notes left on his desk, through small nods when he passed her in the hallway. If Maria was calling him, something was wrong. "Excuse me," he said to the table. He stood up and walked to the corner of the restaurant. "Maria, what is it?" "Signore." Her voice was shaking. "I'm sorry to disturb you. I went to bring the Signora her lunch, and she's not in her room. She's not in the house." Dante went very still. "What do you mean she's not in the house?" "I've looked everywhere, Signore. The garden, the library, her father's study." "Her father's study?" Maria paused a second too long. "Yes, Signore. She wasn't there either." "Maria," his voice dropped an octave. "When was the last time you saw her?" "This morning, Signore, after breakfast. She went upstairs to her room. She said she had a headache." "What was she wearing?" "A cream dress, the one you bought her in Milan." "Has she taken a bag?" "Signore, I don't know. I didn't check her closet." "Check it now." There was silence on the line. Footsteps, a door opening, the sound of hangers sliding. And then Maria's voice, small and careful. The voice of a woman who had rehearsed this exact moment. Her travel bag is gone, signore, and her passport. Dante closed his eyes. Signore, call the gate. Ask them who left the house today. Already did, signore. They say no one left through the main gate. The east gate. It's unmonitored during the shift change, signore. I know when it's unmonitored, Maria. His voice was now so quiet it was almost gentle, which was the most dangerous sound Dante Salvatore ever made. That's the point. That's why I asked. Yes, signore. I'm sorry, signore. Maria. Yes. Did my wife say anything to you this morning? Another pause. No, signore. She was quiet. Quiet. Yes, signore. Dante opened his eyes. He looked at Alessandro Russo across the restaurant, who was waiting for him to come back to the table, and he raised one finger 1 minute, and Russo nodded understandingly. Maria, listen to me very carefully. You are going to stay in the house. You are not going to call anyone else. You are not going to tell anyone what you told me. If my wife comes back, you tell her I love her, and I am on my way home. Do you understand? Yes, signore. Good. He hung up. He stood there for 10 seconds, his hand flat against the wall, and he breathed. In through the nose, out through the mouth, the way his father had taught him to breathe when he was 12 years old and about to kill his first man. Then he walked back to the table. Gentlemen, he said, I apologize. A family matter. I have to go. Elena was in a motel room in a town whose name she had not bothered to memorize. The driver had dropped her at a truck stop 40 miles north of the city. She had paid him in cash 1,000 euros, which was 3 times what they had agreed on, and she had walked across the parking lot to a dingy little motel run by an old woman who didn't ask questions when Elena handed her another 300 euros and said she wanted a room for a week. Name for the register. Anna, Elena said. It was her mother's name. Anna Conti. The old woman wrote it down without looking up. Room 14, round the back, ice machine is broken, don't flush paper products. Elena locked the door behind her. She locked the chain. She pushed the dresser in front of the door because she had seen someone do that in a movie once, and she didn't know what else to do. Then she sat on the edge of the bed, and for a long time she didn't move. Her father's envelope was on the nightstand. She didn't open it right away. She was afraid of it now. She had read one name in that notebook, Salvatore Marco, and it had changed everything she thought she knew about her father. What else was in there? What else had he been hiding? How many other names? How many other ghosts? Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since breakfast, and she had barely eaten breakfast. She didn't remember the last time she had eaten a real meal. Probably yesterday, probably before Dante had come home in that terrible mood and locked himself in his office and not come out until morning. She went to the window. She pulled back the curtain 2 inches. The parking lot was empty except for her driver's taxi, which was long gone, and a single truck idling at the edge of the lot. The driver of the truck was smoking. He didn't look at her window. He didn't look at anything in particular. But Elena watched him for a full minute anyway because she was learning already that every stranger was now a possibility. The flip phone the driver had given her buzzed. Elena jumped. She stared at the phone. It buzzed again. Nobody had this number. Nobody should have this number. It was supposed to be an emergency phone, a burner, a clean line. She picked it up. Hello. Signora, it was the driver. I just wanted to make sure you got inside okay. She sagged against the wall. Yes, I'm inside. Good. A pause. Signora, one more thing. When I dropped you off, I saw a black Mercedes drive past the motel, slow like it was looking at license plates. Elena's blood went cold. How long ago? 5 minutes. I went back to check. It's gone now. But Signora, I think you should move tonight, not tomorrow. Tonight. Whoever you're running from, they're faster than you thought. Where am I supposed to go? I have a cousin who runs a small farm in Umbria. He asked no questions. I already called him. He can keep you for a few days. I can come get you at midnight if you want. Elena closed her eyes. She didn't know this man. This man could be anyone. This man could already be on Dante's payroll. For all she knew, the whole thing, the phone, the cousin, the story about his sister could be a trap. Dante had half the drivers in the city on his payroll. Why wouldn't he have this one too? And yet the man had given her a phone, and yet the man had cried real tears in the mirror when he told her about his sister, and yet Elena was learning this the hard way, And fast, at some point you had to decide whether you were going to die alone in a motel room being careful, or whether you were going to trust a stranger and at least try to live. Midnight, she said. Room 14. Come around the back. Flash your headlights twice. Yes, Signora. And what is your name? I don't even know your name. Paolo, he said. Paolo De Luca. Paolo, she swallowed. Thank you. Midnight, Signora. Be ready. Dante stood in his wife's bedroom, and he knew. He didn't need to see the note yet. He didn't need to see the ring on the nightstand. He knew the moment he walked in the way a dog knows a house is empty. The air was wrong. The smell was wrong. Elena's perfume, that soft jasmine thing she wore, had already started to fade, which was impossible, which was a trick his mind was playing on him, but he knew. Then he saw the ring. 4 carats of perfect diamond sitting on the cream-colored paper with her name at the top. You were right. 3 words. He read it 3 times. And on the 3rd time, he felt something that he had not felt in a very long time, something he had not allowed himself to feel since the day his father died. He felt afraid, Samit, not of losing her. Dante Salvatore did not lose things, and he certainly did not fear losing a wife he had just told 12 hours ago that he did not love. No, he was afraid of something much more specific and much more terrible. He was afraid because he had married Elena Bellini for a reason. He had married her because her father, Giovanni Bellini, the old lion of the North, had something. Something in a safe somewhere. Something nobody could find after Giovanni died, no matter how many rooms they tore apart, no matter how many floorboards they pulled up. Dante had been married to Elena for 11 months, and one of those months he had spent carefully, systematically searching her father's study while she was out. He had never found it, and if Elena had found it and taken it with her, Matteo, he shouted. His second in command appeared in the doorway within 3 seconds. Yes, boss. The study, her father's study. Check the safe. What safe? Behind the painting, the hunting painting. Move. Matteo ran. Dante stood in his wife's bedroom and he looked at the ring on the paper and he realized something else. Something worse. Something that made the fear in his chest curdle into something colder. Elena had left the ring. Elena had never taken the ring off. Not once in 11 months. Not in the shower. Not when she was sick. Not when he had been cold to her at a dinner party and she had cried in the bathroom for 40 minutes. The ring had stayed on. It was the last thing she was holding on to. And she had left it, which meant she wasn't coming back, which meant she had decided, which meant boss. Matteo was back in the doorway. The safe is open. It's empty. Dante closed his eyes. How empty? Completely, boss. Whatever was in there is gone. There was a notebook in that safe, Matteo, a small leather one, her father's. Boss, she has it. Matteo hesitated. What do you want us to do? Dante opened his eyes, and for the first time since breakfast, since he had sat across from his wife and told her she had never mattered. Dante Salvatore felt something shift inside him. Not love. He wasn't ready to admit that yet. Something colder and sharper and more dangerous than love. Desperation. Find her, he said. Every road out of the city, every train station, every airport, every driver on our payroll. I want to know where she is in the next 6 hours, Matteo. Do you understand me? 6 hours, or we are all dead. Dead, boss. She has the ledger, Matteo, the one Giovanni kept, the one with every name, the one that can send every man in this house to prison for the rest of his life. If she gets that to the wrong person, we are finished. Matteo went pale. And Matteo. Yes, boss. Do not hurt her. If any of you touch a hair on her head, I will skin you alive. Do you understand me? Bring her back. Alive, unharmed. I don't care what it takes. Yes, boss. Go, Chi. Matteo went. Dante stood alone in his wife's bedroom. He picked up the ring off the nightstand. He held it in his palm. It was cold. It had been cold for hours. Elena had taken it off a long time ago, and he had not noticed, and he had kept eating his espresso and reading his newspaper, and she had walked out of his house with her father's ledger in her hand while he was laughing with Alessandro Russo about a story about a gelato stand. He closed his hand around the ring. Elena, he said to the empty room. Elena, what did you do? But he already knew what she had done. She had done exactly what he had taught her to do every morning for 11 months by every cold word and every slammed door and every breakfast silence. She had stopped loving him, and now she was going to survive him. At 11:53 p.m., Elena heard the flash of headlights through her motel curtain. Twice. She grabbed the bag, she grabbed the envelope. She grabbed her mother's silver cross and she pressed it to her lips once quickly, the way she had seen her mother do before every hard thing she had ever done. She opened the door. Paolo was in the driver's seat. He was not smiling. He was looking in his rearview mirror and his hands were tight on the wheel. Get in, Senora, fast. What's wrong? The Mercedes is back. It's parked on the main road. I don't know how long it's been there. Get in. Elena got in. Paolo pulled out of the parking lot without turning on his headlights. He took a back road Elena hadn't known existed, a narrow dirt track behind the motel that cut through a vineyard and came out on a country road 2 miles away. His hands were shaking on the wheel, so were hers. Paolo, look at me. Who are they? I don't know, Senora. I don't want to know. Did they see you? Oh, I don't think so. Are they following us? Paolo checked the mirror, checked it again. No, not yet. Not yet. Senora, please, let me drive. Just let me drive. Elena looked down at the envelope in her lap, her father's ledger, her father's roots, her father's names. The one name she had seen, Salvatore Marco, paid $3.2 million, and the dozens, maybe hundreds of names she had not seen yet. She had no idea what she was carrying. She had no idea how many men in how many countries would kill her for it. And somewhere behind her in a house she would never see again. Her husband, the man who had told her he never loved her. The man who had broken her in half over breakfast was sitting in her bedroom holding her wedding ring, and he was learning for the first time in his life what it felt like to lose something he had not known he owned. Elena did not know any of that. All she knew as Paolo's old taxi bumped down the dirt road in the dark was that she was still alive, and that for tonight at least was going to have to be enough. Enough to get her through the night. That was all Elena could ask for now. Paolo drove without speaking for almost an hour. Elena didn't push him. She could see his hands on the wheel, the knuckles white, the wedding ring catching the dashboard light every time he made a turn, and she understood that he was doing the math in his head. How far? How fast? Which roads had cameras? Which didn't? What he would say to his wife when he got home at 3 a.m. smelling like diesel in fear. Paolo. Yes, Senora. Your wife. Does she know what you're doing right now? He almost laughed. My wife knows I drive a taxi. My wife is sleeping. My wife is going to kill me when she finds out. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, Senora. My wife would kill me worse if I did nothing. Elena looked out the window. The country was pitch black. No street lights. Every few minutes they would pass a farmhouse with a single yellow porch light, and she would think somebody lives there. Somebody's asleep in there. Somebody has a life where nobody is hunting them tonight. How much further? 40 minutes. My cousin Bruno. He has an old farmhouse half falling down. He raises pigs. He has not spoken to another human being who was not his pig in about 12 years. You will be safe. Paolo. Elena hesitated. What did you tell him about me? I told him you were a friend. I told him you were in trouble. I dissed him if he opened his mouth to anyone. I would tell his mother about the whore in Genoa he paid for with her rosary money in 1987. Despite everything, Elena laughed. A small watery laugh, but a real one. She hadn't laughed since before breakfast. It surprised her that she still knew how. Thank you, she said, for this, for all of this. Don't thank me. Thank me when we get there. In the city, Dante Salvatore had not slept. He was sitting at the long dining table where 16 hours earlier he had told his wife he never loved her. The lights were off. The coffee cup she had broken, Maria had swept up the big pieces, but some of the slivers were still glinting under the sideboard, was still ruining his view every time he looked down. He had a glass of whiskey in his hand that he had not touched in 40 minutes. Matteo came in and did not turn on the lights. Boss, tell me something good, Matteo. I can't. Dante set the whiskey down very carefully. Try. We have her on the camera at the East Gate at 11:58 this morning. Scarf dark coat bag over her shoulder. She got in a taxi on Via Vicenza. Unmarked. Not one of ours. License plate? We have it. We ran it. It belongs to a driver named Paolo De Luca, 62 years old, lives in Trastevere with his wife. No connections to us. No connections to the Russos. No connections to anybody. He's just a taxi driver, boss. No, Mateo, he is not just a taxi driver. Taxi drivers don't pick up my wife at the servant's gate on the day she decides to run. Somebody paid him. Somebody arranged it. Find out who. Yes, boss. What else? We pinged her phone. It went dead at 12:04. She threw it out somewhere on the A1. We have men sweeping the highway, but she's smart. Yes, boss. She's smarter than I knew. Yes, boss. Dante picked up the whiskey. He still didn't drink it. He just watched the amber liquid tilt against the glass. Mateo, how long have you worked for me? 9 years, boss. Did I know it, boss? That my wife was smart. Did you know? Mateo was quiet for a long moment. Boss, he finally said, we all knew. Everybody in this house knew. The only person who didn't know was you. Dante laughed, once, a short, bitter sound. Get out, Mateo. Boss, get out, find my wife, bring her back. And Mateo, if I hear one more true thing out of your mouth tonight, I'm going to do something we will both regret. Mateo got out. Dante sat alone in the dark dining room with the whiskey he was not drinking and the ring in his pocket and the slivers of coffee cup shining under the sideboard. And for the first time in his entire adult life, Dante Salvatore wondered what the hell he had done. Paolo's cousin Bruno lived in a house that looked like it had given up on itself sometime during the last war. The roof sagged. The shutters hung crooked. There was a single bare bulb burning over the front door, and under that bulb stood a man who was the ugliest human being Elena had ever seen. Short bulb built like a barrel with a beard that seemed to be growing in 3 different directions and the kindest. Cousin, Paolo said, stepping out of the taxi. Cousin, Bruno said back. The two men embraced. They slapped each other on the back in the hard, wordless way of men who loved each other and would rather die than say so out loud. Then Bruno turned to Elena. He looked at her for a long time. Not unkind, just careful. Signora Anna, he said, because that was the name Paolo had given him. You are welcome in my house. You can stay as long as you need. I have one rule. Yes. Do not tell me your real name. Do not tell me who is looking for you. Do not tell me what you have done. If the men come, I want to be able to look them in the eye and say, I don't know. Do you understand, Signora? I understand. Good. He reached for her bag. Come in. I have bread and cheese. Also, I have wine. The wine is not good. I am warning you. Elena laughed the second laugh of the day. Thank you, Bruno. Paolo caught her arm before she went inside. Signora, I have to go now. My wife. I know. You have the phone, Eden. Yes. If you need me, call. But don't call unless you need me. Whoever is looking for you, they are also looking for me now. You understand? I understand. Signora. He hesitated. Then awkwardly, the way a man who has not touched another human being in a long time touches someone, he put his hand on her shoulder. My sister, the one I told you about. Her name was Francesca. She was 26. She is the reason I am helping you. Do not die, Signora, please. Do not make me regret this. Elena's eyes filled. I won't, Paolo. Good. He got in his taxi. He drove away. Elena stood in the doorway of Bruno's crumbling farmhouse, a stranger's bag over her shoulder, a dead man's envelope in her hand and the smell of pigs and old stone around her, and she thought, my husband would hate this place. My husband would throw up just standing here. It was the first free thought she had had in 11 months. She went inside. Bruno was true to his word. He fed her bread and cheese and bad wine. He did not ask her a single question. He told her about his pigs. Each of them had a name. Each of them was a disappointment in a different way. And after an hour, he stood up, stretched, and pointed at a narrow staircase. Room at the top. Bed is clean. Lock is good. Water is cold, but it works. I go to bed now. I wake up at 4. If you hear somebody in the kitchen at 4, it is me, not the men who are looking for you. If it is the men, I will shoot them. I have a gun. It is not a good gun, but it shoots. Bruno. Sleep, Signora. Tomorrow you decide what to do next. Tonight you sleep. He went to bed. Elena climbed the stairs. The room was tiny, a bed, a chair, a wooden crucifix on the wall, and a window that looked out on nothing but darkness. She sat on the bed. She put the envelope on her lap, and finally she opened it all the way. She read for 3 hours. She read the ledger first. Every page, every name. By the time she got to the middle, she was no longer crying. She was past crying. She had moved into a place beyond crying, a cold, clear place where her father was a stranger and her mother was a stranger and her own life was a stranger, and all she had was a leather notebook in her hands. Her father had been worse than she thought. Not a soldier, not a protector, not the old lion of the North who had kept his family clean while dirty men circled. No, her father had been the architect, the man who drew the maps, the man who told the dirty men where to go and what to do when they got there. And somewhere around page 40, she saw a name that made her stop breathing. Bellini Sofia. Payment arranged. 1.8 million. Palermo, July 2003. Sofia, her mother. Elena's mother had died of cancer. That was the story. That had always been the story. Elena had been 11 years old and her mother had died of cancer in a hospital in Rome, and her father had sat at the edge of Elena's bed and held her hand and cried real tears, and he had said, "I could not save her, Piccola. I tried." Payment arranged. 1.8 million. Palermo, July 2003. Her mother had died in August 2003. 1 month later, Elena closed the ledger. She sat on the edge of the bed in a stranger's farmhouse, in a room that smelled like dust and old wood, and she felt something inside her that she had never felt before in her entire life. It wasn't grief. She was already empty of grief. It was something older and quieter and more dangerous. It was rage. Her father had not been her protector. Her father had killed her mother. Her father had then spent the next 13 years of her life playing the role of the grieving widower, reading her bedtime stories, teaching her to ride a bicycle, crying on her mother's birthday every single year. And when her father himself died, he had handed her off to Dante Salvatore the same way he had handed off her mother to whoever was standing in that hallway in Palermo in July of 2003. Her whole life had been a transaction. Every single moment of her whole life. Elena stood up. She walked to the little window. She looked at her own reflection in the dark glass, a woman she barely recognized, a woman with tangled hair and a borrowed coat and eyes that had seen something they could never unsee. "Okay," she said to the woman in the window. "Okay." She did not know exactly what she was going to do next, but she knew for the first time in her life that she was going to stop being somebody other people did things to. She was going to start being somebody who did things back. At 3 a.m, Dante finally drank the whiskey. He drank it in one long swallow, and he set the glass down on the dining table and he took out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts. He stopped at a name he had not called in 4 years. A woman's name, not a lover, worse than a lover. Vittoria, his sister. He had not spoken to Vittoria since their father's funeral. Vittoria had walked out of the church in the middle of the service, and she had told Dante on the steps that she hoped he choked on their father's empire the same way their father had choked on it, and she had gotten into a cab and disappeared. She lived in London now. She had a life. She had a husband who was a doctor, not a criminal. She had 2 children whose names Dante did not know. She was the only person left in the world who had known Dante before he was Dante Salvatore. He called her. She picked up on the 7th ring. "It is 3 o'clock in the morning," his sister said. "Somebody had better be dead." Vittoria, silence. "Dante, don't hang up. Give me one reason." "My wife is gone." There was a very long pause on the line. "Dante," his sister said, and her voice had changed. It had softened, not with pity, but with something harder to name. "I want you to listen to me very carefully. I have been waiting for this phone call for 11 months. Did she leave a note?" 3 words. "You were right." "Oh, Dante." His sister actually laughed, a short, exhausted laugh. "Oh, you stupid, stupid man. What did you do?" "I told her the truth." "Which truth?" "That I never loved her." "Did you mean it?" Dante opened his mouth, and for the first time in 16 hours, for the first time since he had sat across from Elena, with his espresso and his folded newspaper, he tried to say yes, and the word did not come out of his mouth. "Vittoria." "Did you mean it, Dante?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" "Vittoria, I don't know." His sister was quiet for a very long time. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter than he had ever heard it. "Dante, listen to me. Whatever you have done to that girl, whatever your men are doing right now to find her, stop. Do you understand me? Stop. Call them off. Let her go. If you loved her even a little, even the smallest piece, you will let her go." "I can't, Vittoria." Why, she has something. Another long pause. Oh my God, Dante, she has the ledger. How do you know about the ledger? Because I am not an idiot, Dante. Because I lived in that house too before you. Because I saw Papa's face every time Giovanni Bellini's name came up for 15 years. Because everybody in the family knew Giovanni had something on us. Everybody except you. She laughed again, and it was not kind. You married that girl for the ledger, and you didn't even know what you were married to. Vittoria. Dante. What do I do? His sister took a long, slow breath on the other end of the line. Dante, she said, for the first time in your life, you are going to have to choose. You can have your empire, or you can have her. You cannot have both. And if you try to have both, you are going to lose both. Do you understand me? Dante did not answer. Dante, I understand. Do you though? Do you really, Pun? Oh, yes, Vittoria. Then choose. I can't choose yet. I don't know where she is. Then find her. Not with your men, not with your guns. Find her yourself. Go to her and tell her the truth, the real truth. The one you have been lying to yourself about for 11 months, and then let her decide. And if she walks away, then she walks away, Dante. Then you let her walk. That is what it means to love somebody. And maybe, just maybe, that will be the first actual loving thing you have ever done in your entire pathetic life. She hung up. Dante sat in the dark dining room with the phone still against his ear, listening to the silence where his sister had been. Then he stood up. He walked out of the dining room and down the hall and up the stairs to his wife's bedroom. He stood in the doorway. He looked at the unmade bed, the cream-colored paper on the nightstand, the closet door still standing open from where Maria had checked for the travel bag. He walked to the closet. He ran his hand along the hangers. Her dresses, her coats, the clothes he had bought her, the clothes she had chosen herself, the clothes she had worn on the bad days and the good days and the empty days in between. In the very back, he found something that stopped him cold, a small wooden box. He took it down. He opened it. It was a stack of letters. Not love letters, not his letters, her letters. Letters Elena had written to him in her own handwriting over 11 months and never given him. The first was dated 2 weeks after the wedding. Dante, today you didn't come home. I waited for you at dinner. I am writing this so that someday when you love me, I can give it to you and we can laugh. He read the next one, and the next one, and the next. They got shorter. They got harder. They got more honest. The last one was dated 3 weeks ago. Dante, I don't think you are ever going to love me. I think I have to stop waiting. I am trying to figure out how. Dante sat down on the floor of his wife's closet. He sat there for a long, long time with his wife's letters in his lap and his wife's ring in his pocket, and he cried for the first time since he was 12 years old, for the first time since his father had told him that Salvatore men did not cry. He cried quietly. And somewhere 40 miles away, in a tiny farmhouse on a pig farm in the middle of nowhere, Elena Bellini was sitting at a narrow window with her father's ledger on her lap, making a list of names, a list of men she was going to destroy. And at the very top of the list, in her own careful handwriting, was the name Dante Salvatore. She did not know yet that he was sitting on the floor of her closet crying. She did not know yet that he had read her letters. She did not know yet that somewhere in the middle of the night, something inside the coldest man she had ever met had finally cracked. All she knew was that she was going to burn his whole world down. And she was going to do it with her own 2 hands. She was going to do it with her own 2 hands, and she was going to start before the sun came up. Elena worked at the little table in Bruno's guest room until dawn. She did not sleep. She did not eat. She made 3 piles out of the envelope's contents. Names she recognized, names she didn't, and names she could not believe she was reading. And she wrote a plan on the back of a grocery list she found in the drawer. The plan had 4 steps. Step 1, get the ledger out of Italy. Step 2, get herself out of Italy. Step 3, find a journalist who was not on the list. Step 4, stay alive long enough to see step 3 through. She looked at the list for a long time, then she crossed out step 2 and wrote, get Dante to save his own life first. She didn't know why she wrote it. She didn't know when she had decided it. Somewhere between page 40 of the ledger and page 70, she had realized something she did not want to realize, that Dante's name was in the book too, but only twice and only as somebody who had been lied to. Dante had not killed her mother. Dante had not paid for his own father's death. Dante was a monster, but he was a different kind of monster than the one her father had been. And somewhere in the cold, quiet part of her that was doing the math tonight, Elena had decided she was not going to hand her husband's life to the men who wanted his throat. Not for love. She was past love. For something else. Something she could not name yet. At 6 a.m., Bruno knocked on her door. "Senora, coffee." She opened the door. He handed her a chipped mug. "You did not sleep," he said. It was not a question. "No, good. Sleep is for people with nothing to do. You have something to do. Drink and come downstairs." Paolo called. "He says somebody went to his house last night." Elena's hand closed hard around the mug. "Is he alive?" "Yes," his wife opened the door. "They asked about a woman in a cream coat. She said she did not know. They left. But Signora Paolo says they are not policemen." "I know what they are." "Then you know what we do now." "What do we do?" Bruno looked at her for a long moment. "We move you again," he said. "Today, before noon. I have a friend who drives a cheese truck to Switzerland twice a week. He goes this afternoon. You will ride with the cheese. You will not like it. You will smell like Parmesan for a month. But you will be in a different country by tonight." Elena stared at him. "Bruno, why are you helping me?" He shrugged. "Paolo asked." "Paolo never asks." "That's not enough, Signora." He smiled for the first time since she had met him. It was a bad smile. 2 of his front teeth were missing, but it was real. "I raise pigs. All day I watch things be used up. All day I watch things be eaten. Sometimes a man likes to help something not be eaten. Drink your coffee." He went downstairs. Elena drank the coffee. It was terrible. She drank all of it. In the city, Dante had not slept either. He had read every one of his wife's letters 3 times. He had put them back in the wooden box carefully in the order he had found them in. He had carried the box with him downstairs. He had set it on the dining table next to the coffee cup slivers. Then he had called Matteo. "Boss, bon. Matteo, I need you to call off the men." There was a silence on the line that Dante had never heard from Matteo before. Boss, say that again. "Call them off, all of them. Tell the drivers, tell the trains, tell the airports. Stand everybody down. I don't want her found." "Boss, the ledger." "I know about the ledger." "Boss, if she—" "Matteo, do you trust me?" "Yes, boss." "Then do what I am telling you to do. I will deal with the ledger myself. You stand the men down. You stand them down in the next hour. Do you understand me?" "Yes, boss." "And Matteo?" "Yes. After you stand them down, I need a list of every safe house the family owns within 300 kilometers. Everyone. I don't care if we haven't used them in 10 years. I want the list on my desk by 9. "Yes, boss." "And my car." "Which one, boss?" "The old one. My father's? The one nobody knows." "Yes, boss." Dante hung up. He stood in the dining room. He looked at his wife's wooden box. He put his hand on it the way a man puts his hand on a coffin at a funeral. "Okay, Elena," he said to the empty room. "Okay, I'm coming. Not to bring you back. Just to say what I should have said." He did not know yet that she was already halfway out of the country. He did not know yet that she was not the woman he had said goodbye to this morning. He did not know yet that the wife he was about to chase across 300 kilometers was carrying a list of names in her coat pocket and that his name was still on it. At 10 a.m., Elena climbed into the back of a refrigerated cheese truck. The driver was a man named Stefano. He did not look at her. He did not introduce himself. He opened the back of the truck, pointed at a narrow space behind the last pallet, and said, 4 hours, don't make noise. Don't be sick. I stopped once for the border. If they open the truck, you pretend you are a dead pig, okay? A dead pig. A dead pig does not move. A dead pig does not breathe through its nose. A dead pig does not scream when the door opens. You will be a dead pig for 30 seconds. That is all I am asking. Okay. Good. He shut the door. It was pitch black. It was cold. It smelled like old milk and diesel. Elena wedged herself behind the pallet and she held the envelope against her chest like a baby. And she did something she had not done since she was 9 years old. She prayed. Not the long prayers her mother had taught her. Not the Latin ones her father had recited every Sunday while his hands bought and sold other men's lives. Just one word over and over, a word her mother had whispered to her once during a thunderstorm when she was too little to understand what the storm was. Hold, hold, hold. The truck started. The truck pulled out. The truck bumped over the farm road and onto the real road and onto the highway, and Elena held onto the envelope and held onto the word. And for 4 hours, she was a woman in a box, a woman no one could see, a woman the world had temporarily lost track of. For the first time in 11 months, it felt like mercy. Dante was on the road by 11, the old car, the car his father had driven for 30 years, an ugly gray sedan no one would look at. Twice he drove it himself, no driver, no guards. He had called Vittoria once more before he left. "I am going to find her," he had said. "Dante, not with men. No men, just me. And when you find her, what are you going to say?" He had hesitated. "I don't know yet." "Then don't find her yet. Drive, Dante. Drive until you know, because if you show up without the right words, you are going to lose her forever." He had hung up on his sister. She was right. She was always right. He hated that she was always right. He drove north. He did not know why north. Something in him, maybe a husband's last surviving instinct, maybe just a guess, told him she would go north. North was Switzerland. North was a border. North was the direction a woman runs when she is done running in circles. He stopped at a truck stop 2 hours outside the city for gas. He sat in the car for 20 minutes with the engine off. He pulled out his phone. He did something he had not done in 11 months. He scrolled through his photos of her. He had a lot of them, more than he had realized. Her at the wedding trying not to cry. Her at his mother's funeral holding his hand even though he had not asked her to. Her at a restaurant in Portofino laughing at something the waiter had set a piece of bread halfway to her mouth. Her asleep on a plane, her head against the window, her wedding ring catching the light. He stopped at a photo he did not remember taking. She was in their kitchen. She was in one of his shirts. He had not known she wore his shirts, and she was making coffee, and she had not known he was there. She was smiling a tiny private smile at nothing, at the coffee pot, at being alive in his house at 7 in the morning. She looked happy. She looked like a woman who was trying to be happy. The date on the photo was 4 months old. 4 months ago, he had walked into the kitchen, seen his wife smiling to herself in his shirt, taken a picture he did not remember taking, and walked right back out without saying good morning to her. He put his phone down. He put his forehead on the steering wheel. "Elena," he said to no one. "Elena, I am so sorry." And he meant it. For the first time in his adult life, the most feared man in 3 provinces said "I am sorry" and meant it all the way down to his shoes. The cheese truck stopped at the border at 2:30 in the afternoon. Elena heard the voices before she heard the knock. Stefano joking with the guard board joking back. Something about a football match. Something about a wife. Normal life. Normal men. Normal afternoon. Then the knock. "Open the back, Stefano. Routine." Routine? Since when is there a routine? Since this morning. Everybody is opening today. Somebody rich is missing somebody. Just open it. Elena stopped breathing. She pressed herself against the back wall of the truck. She wedged the envelope under her coat. She closed her eyes. Dead pig, dead pig, dead pig. The back door opened. Cold light flooded the truck. "Cheese," Stefano said. "I can see that." "A lot of cheese." "I can see that too, Stefano. Move the pallet. Let me look behind it." Elena heard the pallet move. She heard it scrape against the floor of the truck. She heard the guard's boots step up onto the lip. "Hold, hold, hold." The guard's flashlight passed over her face. She did not move. She did not breathe. She did not open her eyes. There was a long, long second where Elena Bellini's entire life hung by a thread. And then, "Stefano, your truck smells like death." "It's cheese, you moron. That's how cheese smells." "It does not smell like cheese. It smells like a dead animal." "There is no dead animal. Look, look, a pallet of Parmesan, a pallet of provolone, my grandmother's leftover prosciutto for my cousin in Bern. You are wasting my time. You are wasting your time. Go find someone actually suspicious." A pause, and then the guard laughed. A short, tired laugh. "Get out of here, Stefano, and tell your grandmother her prosciutto smells like feet." The door slammed shut. The truck started moving. Elena Bellini, wife of Dante Salvatore, daughter of Giovanni Bellini, carrier of a ledger that could burn 3 countries, started shaking so hard she could not stop. Not from fear, from release. From the fact that she had just been one breath away from being dragged back into her old life, and the one breath had held. She was in Switzerland. She was free. For about 45 minutes. Dante was 2 hours behind her. He did not know that. He did not know anything. He was a husband driving north on a hunch in a car his father had left him with his wife's wedding ring in his pocket and her letters on the passenger seat. He stopped at every gas station. He showed Elena's photo to every cashier. Not like a cop, like a husband. Have you seen her, please? She's my wife. She left last night. I don't want to bring her back. I just want to tell her one thing. Most of them shook their heads. Some of them looked at him like he was crazy. One of them, an old woman in a gas station outside Como, looked at the photo for a long time. What did you do to her? She asked. Dante almost lied. Then he didn't. I told her I never loved her, he said, in front of our breakfast. I looked her in the face and I told her. And it wasn't even true. And by the time I figured out it wasn't true, she was already gone. The old woman looked at him for a long, long moment. You are a very stupid man, she said. Yes. Did you hit her? No, never. I would cut off my own hand first. Did you love someone else? No. Then why did you say it? Dante opened his mouth to answer, and he realized standing there in a gas station at a counter made of dirty glass, holding a photo of his wife and a credit card for 20 euros of gas, that he did not have a good answer. Because I was afraid, he finally said. Because I thought if I let myself love her, I would lose her. And I thought if I said it first, it wouldn't hurt. The old woman took the photo from him. She looked at it one more time. She handed it back. I have not seen her, she said. But when you find her, and you will find her, because stupid men always find the women they don't deserve when you find her, I want you to remember something. Yes. The thing you said to her, the thing you said so it wouldn't hurt. She leaned over the counter. It hurts, Signore. It hurts her every second she is alive. And it is going to keep hurting her for the rest of her life, even if she forgives you. Do you understand? Yes. So when you find her, when you open your mouth, be careful. Because she is already hurt. She does not need any more of your hurt. Dante paid for his gas. He got back in the car. He sat there for a minute. Then he put his head down on the steering wheel again, and he laughed. Not a happy laugh. The other kind. The kind men laugh when they finally see themselves. Papa, he said to his father's dashboard. Papa, I am nothing like you thought I was. I am nothing like you made me to be. I am a man who said the worst thing he could think of to the only person who ever loved him, and now I am driving your stupid car to go find her, and I don't even know if she will open the door. The car didn't answer. Cars don't. He pulled back onto the highway. Elena reached Lugano at 6 in the evening. Stefano dropped her at a train station and did not say goodbye. He just nodded once, the way Paolo had nodded the night before, the way Bruno had nodded that morning. A whole relay of small nods, a whole chain of men she would never see again, handing her off like she was something precious and small and breakable. She walked into the station. She bought a cup of coffee with a Swiss franc she had gotten from Stefano. She sat on a bench and she did 2 things. She opened the flip phone, and she called a number she had memorized 13 years ago and never used. It rang 4 times. Pronto. Don Ricci. Silence. Who is this? Don Ricci, it's Elena, Giovanni Bellini's daughter. A longer silence. Elena, child, where are you? Switzerland. Are you safe? For tonight. Elena, tell me what you have. I have his book, Don Ricci, the real one. She heard him breathe in. She heard him breathe out. She heard a chair creak on the other end of the line. Don Ricci was 78 years old. He had been her father's oldest rival and her mother's oldest friend, and on the day of her mother's funeral, he had knelt down in front of 11-year-old Elena, and he had said, if you ever need me, child, you call, and he had given her his number. She had never called, until now. Elena, the old man said. Where? In Switzerland? Lugano, the train station. Don't move. Do not go to a hotel. Do not get on a train. Sit on that bench and drink your coffee. I am sending somebody. 40 minutes. Blue car. The driver will say your mother's real name. You remember your mother's real name? Yes. Good girl, 40 minutes. Don Ricci. Yes, child. My father killed my mother. A pause. Yes, child, the old man said softly. I know. You knew. I knew, Elena. For 23 years I knew. And I have been waiting 23 years for the moment you would figure it out because I could not be the one to tell you. Your mother made me promise. She made me promise on the day she died. She said, let her love her father as long as she can. The truth will find her when she is ready. Elena's eyes filled. Don Ricci. Yes, child. I'm ready. I know, Elena. I know. What do I do now? The old man was quiet for a long time. Now he said, you come home, child, not to his house, to mine, and we decide together what kind of woman your mother would want you to be. 40 minutes, blue car. Drink your coffee. He hung up. Elena sat on the bench with the empty phone in her hand. She looked out the window of the station at a city she did not know. She thought about her mother. She thought about her father. She thought about Dante somewhere behind her, maybe already stopped, maybe still coming. And she thought for the first time since she had walked out of that east gate with a scarf over her head and a stranger's bag in her hand that she was not alone anymore. She was still hunted. She was still hurt. She was still the woman who was going to burn a whole world down. But she was not alone. She picked up her coffee. It had gone cold. She drank it anyway. And somewhere 100 miles behind her, Dante Salvatore was pulling off the highway at the last gas station before the Swiss border, showing his wife's photograph to a teenage boy at the register and saying for the 20th time that day, the same words he was going to keep saying until he found her or until he died. Please, have you seen her? Please, please, have you seen her? Please. The teenage boy at the register looked at the photo for a long time, longer than any of the others. Long enough that Dante's heart started to move against his ribs in a way it hadn't moved in hours. Maybe, the boy said. Dante went very still. Maybe. There was a cheese truck, a couple hours ago. Stefano, the one who runs up to Lugano on Tuesdays and Fridays. He stopped for a Red Bull. I saw something move in the back when he opened it. Something moved. A coat. Cream coat. I thought I was seeing things. I didn't say anything to him. Stefano pays cash. He tips good. I mind my business. The boy shrugged. But it looked like a coat. Dante put a 200 euro note on the counter. Do you have his number? Stefano's number. I know his route, though. He drops the cheese at a warehouse outside Lugano, and he usually gets coffee at the station cafe before he comes back. The train station. Yeah. Dante took the boy's hand. He shook it hard like the boy had just saved his life, which in a way the boy had. Kid, he said, what's your name? Luca. Luca, you just did a very good thing for a very stupid man. I'm going to remember you. Not in a bad way, in a good way. You understand? The boy blinked. Okay, signore. Dante got in the car. He did not drive to the border. He drove faster than that. He drove like a man who had just remembered what his legs were for. In Lugano, the blue car pulled up to the curb at exactly 40 minutes. The driver got out. He was a small man, maybe 60, with a very calm face. He walked up to Elena's bench. He did not look around. He did not check for cameras. He just bent down in front of her the way Don Ricci had bent down 23 years ago at a funeral. Signora, he said quietly. Your mother's name was Sofia Romano, before it was Sofia Bellini. Don Ricci is waiting. Elena stood up. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me, signora. Thank her. He opened the door. She got in. He pulled away from the curb in the train station where she had just sat for 41 minutes drinking cold coffee, slid away behind her like something she had dreamed. How long is the drive, she asked. 30 minutes. He has a house on the lake. It is not on any map. Nobody knows about it. You will be safe tonight. Is he alone? No, signora. His daughter is with him, and his doctor. He is not well. Elena's hand went to her chest. How unwell? 3 months, maybe less. That is why he said yes when you called. He has been waiting for your call for 23 years, signora. He was afraid he would die before you made it. Elena closed her eyes. For a moment in the back of that quiet blue car, she let herself feel something she had not let herself feel in 2 days. Not fear, not rage, not the cold strategic quiet of a woman making a list of names. Just grief. Just the plain human grief of a girl who had lost her mother twice once to cancer and once to the truth, and who was now about to lose the only man left alive who had loved her mother before she was a wife or a widow or a ghost. She breathed through it. Then she opened her eyes. "Drive faster, please," she said. The driver nodded. He drove faster. Don Ricci's house was small. Elena had expected something bigger. She had expected a villa marble guards the whole circus of old money and old power. Instead, a cottage, white walls, blue shutters, a garden that had been loved for decades by somebody who knew what they were doing. The driver walked her to the door. He knocked twice. A woman answered, mid-50s, silver hair pulled back, eyes red from crying. "Elena." "Yes." "I'm Chiara. My father has been asking for you for an hour. Please, come." Elena stepped inside. Don Ricci was sitting in a chair by the window wrapped in a blanket. He was smaller than Elena remembered, thinner. His face cut down to bone and skin. But when he saw her, his eyes, which were the same eyes that had knelt in front of her at her mother's grave, his eyes lit up the way old men's eyes light up only twice in a lifetime, at the beginning and at the end. "Elena, come here, child. Come closer. My eyes are not what they were." Elena walked to him. She knelt in front of his chair, the way he had once knelt in front of her. He took her face in both his hands. "You have your mother's mouth," he said. "Do you know that you have her exact mouth? I used to tell your father, I said, Giovanni, that mouth is going to tell you the truth one day, and you are not going to like it." He laughed, and the laugh turned into a cough, and Chiara stepped forward, but he waved her off. I am fine, Elena. Show me the book." Elena took the envelope out of her coat. She placed it in his lap. He opened it with hands that shook a little. He flipped through the ledger. He flipped to the page about her mother. He stopped there. He looked at it for a long time, and then very gently he closed the book and he handed it back to her. "Your mother knew," he said. "What?" "Your mother knew, Elena, the week before she died. She found out. She came to me. She told me, Ricci, my husband is going to kill me. I know it. I have seen his eyes, and I told her, Sophia, come with me. Right now. Bring Elena, I will hide you both." And she said no. "Why?" "Because he would have found you, child. He would have hunted you to the end of the world." Sophia knew. She chose. She chose to let him do what he was going to do so that he would never ever look at you the way he looked at her. And she made me promise, Elena, that I would watch you. Not close. Not where anybody could see. Just from far enough that I would know if you needed me. Elena was crying now, openly, without dignity, the way she had not cried when Dante had said those words over breakfast, the way she had not cried when she had read her mother's name in the ledger. "She loved you," Don Ricci said. "She loved you more than her own life. Literally, child, literally more than her own life. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Yes." "Good. Now, tell me about your husband." Elena wiped her face. "He's coming," she said. "How do you know?" "I don't. I just know. He's coming." The old man nodded slowly. "Then we have a decision to make, you and I, because I can make him not come, Elena. I can make a phone call from this chair, and your husband will not make it past the Swiss border. Do you want me to make that call?" Elena opened her mouth, and she found that she could not answer. Dante reached Lugano at 8 o'clock at night. He went straight to the station cafe. Stefano was not there. The woman behind the counter remembered him, big Italian man, cheese trucks, drinks, 2 espressos, always tips and coins, but she had not seen him since 4 in the afternoon. Where would he have gone? Home, probably. He lives in Bellinzona. Did he have anyone with him? No, signore. He was alone. He always is. Dante walked out of the cafe. He stood on the platform. Trains came in, trains left. People with suitcases and children and tired faces flowed around him, and he stood still in the middle of them, and he realized something that should have been obvious hours ago. He was not going to find her. Not like this. Not by showing photos to strangers. Not by chasing cheese trucks. If Elena had gotten this far across the border into another country with 24 hours of a head start and a father's ledger in her pocket, then she had not gotten this far by accident. Somebody had helped her. Somebody with more than a taxi and a pig farm. Somebody who knew. He took out his phone. He looked at the photo of her in his kitchen in his shirt, smiling to herself at the coffee pot. "Okay, Elena," he said to the photo. "Okay, I'm going to stop chasing you. I'm going to sit somewhere, and I'm going to wait. And if you want to come find me, you come find me. And if you don't, I'll know. He booked a room at the cheapest hotel in Lugano. He sent one text to one number. It was Maria's number. If she calls the house looking for me, tell her I am at the Hotel Stella Lugano room 207. Tell her I am not bringing anyone. Tell her I am not going anywhere. Tell her I will wait. Then he turned off the phone. He did not turn it back on. Don Ricci's phone rang at 9:30. He answered on the second ring. He listened for a long time. He said, "Are you sure?" He listened again. He said, "Thank you, Maria. Yes, she's here. She's safe. God bless you." And he hung up. Elena looked at him. "He's at the Hotel Stella," the old man said. "In Lugano, room 207. He came alone. No men, no phones. He told his housekeeper to tell you where he was, and then he turned his phone off. He is sitting in that room right now waiting for you." Elena stared at him. "Maria called you." "Maria has been calling me for 11 months, child. I asked her to. The day you got married, I sent word to her. I said, if anything ever happens to that girl, you call me, and you call me first." He shrugged. "Old men have their ways. So you've been watching from far enough away, the way I promised your mother." "Yes." Elena laughed, a short, bewildered laugh. "My whole life," she said, "has had more people in it than I thought." "Elena, listen to me. This is the moment your mother was preparing you for without you knowing. You have three choices. Option one, I make the phone call. Your husband is a dead man by morning. You inherit his empire through the widow's clause your father put in your marriage contract. Yes, child, there is one. He was not a fool, and you burn it to the ground from the inside. Slow, legal, clean. Option two. Option two, you publish the ledger. You give it to the journalists. The whole world burns, including everyone in this book, including me, including your husband, and including possibly you. It is the most honest option. It is also the most likely to get you killed. Option three. The old man looked at her for a long, long time. Option three, he said, you go to the Hotel Stella, room 207, you look him in the eye, and you tell him everything. The ledger, your mother, your father, all of it. You let him be for 1 hour a husband instead of a mafia boss. And then you decide not based on what he said over breakfast yesterday, but based on what he says to you tonight, whether he lives or dies. Don Ricci, Elena, I am not telling you to forgive him. I would never tell you that. Forgiveness is not mine to ask for, and I think maybe it is not yours to give. I am telling you that your husband is sitting in a hotel room with his phone off alone, and that is the first honest thing that man has done in his entire adult life. And your mother Elena, would want you to see it with your own eyes before you make up your mind. Elena was quiet for a long time. Can I borrow the blue car? She finally said. The old man smiled. Take it as long as you need. Dante was sitting on the edge of the hotel bed when she knocked. He did not jump up. He did not run to the door. Some part of him, the part that had been a husband before it had been anything else, knew exactly who it was. He stood up slowly. He walked to the door. He opened it. Elena was standing in the hallway. She was wearing the same cream coat she had left the house in. She was carrying the envelope. She was thinner than she had been yesterday. She was older than she had been yesterday. She was a stranger, and she was his wife, and she was the woman in the kitchen smiling at the coffee pot all at once. Elena, don't, she said, don't say anything yet. Let me talk first. He stepped aside. She walked in. She did not sit down. She stood by the window with her back to him, and she started to talk. She told him about the ledger. She told him about her mother. She told him about her father. She told him what her father had done to Dante's father, and she watched him go white, and she did not stop. She told him about Paolo and Bruno and Stefano and Don Ricci. She told him about the list of names in her coat pocket and whose name was on the top of it. When she was done, she turned around and she looked at him. Now you talk, she said. Dante sat down on the edge of the bed. He put his hands on his knees. Elena, I lied to you yesterday. Which part? All of it. The part about never loving you, the part about marrying you for your father. I married you for your father. That part is true, but somewhere in the first 3 months, I stopped being married to you for your father. I started being married to you for you, and I didn't know what to do with it, Elena. I had never loved anybody. My own father taught me that love was a weakness and it would get me killed, and I believed him because I watched him bury a wife and two brothers and live to 80 anyway. Dante, let me finish, please. I have never said any of this out loud. I don't even know if I can know it twice. She nodded. Every morning for 11 months, I woke up and I told myself, today I am going to be cold to her. Today I am going to be careful. Today I am going to keep the line where it is, every morning. 11 months. 330 mornings, Elena, because I was afraid of what was going to happen to me if I crossed that line. What were you afraid of? This, he said simply. I was afraid of this. I was afraid that one day I would say something stupid and you would leave, and I would find out that I was a man who could not live without his wife. And I was right, Elena. I was right about all of it. I just didn't know I was right until you were gone. Elena did not sit down. She did not move. She stood by the window and she watched him say it and she watched him mean it, and she did not say a word for a very long time. Then she said, "It's too late, Dante." He nodded slowly. He did not argue. He did not beg. He just nodded the way a man nods at a doctor who has told him something he already knew. "I know," he said. "Do you want I think so. I think I knew the minute I read your note." My note was 3 words. It was enough. She came away from the window. She sat down across from him on the little chair by the desk. She put the envelope on the bed between them. "Here is what is going to happen," she said. "I am going to leave this envelope with Don Ricci. He will keep a copy in a safe place. If I die in any way that is not natural, a car accident, a robbery, a fall down the stairs, he will publish it. The whole thing, every name, including yours. Okay. In exchange, you will not come looking for me. You will not send men. You will not call. You will not write. You will live your life and I will live mine. And if we ever meet again, by accident in a restaurant or an airport, you will nod at me like a stranger and you will keep walking." "Okay. You are agreeing very fast, Dante. I am agreeing because you are right. I am agreeing because I lost the right to have an opinion about you yesterday morning. I am agreeing because if letting you go is the only loving thing I get to do in my entire life, then I am going to do it correctly." Elena's eyes filled. She did not let the tears fall. "One more thing," she said. "Anything. I want you to leave the empire." He stared at her. "Elena, not for me, not for us, for you. Because if you stay in that house, in that chair, in that life, if you keep being the man your father made you, then everything we just said in this room is a lie. You will go home and you will be cold again by morning. And I am not going to spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder waiting to see if you meant it. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Dante. Somewhere where nobody calls you boss. Your sister has been waiting for you for 4 years. Start there." He was quiet for a long time. "Okay," he finally said. "Okay. Okay, Elena, I'll leave it. I'll give it to Matteo. I'll go to London. I'll eat dinner with my sister's children whose names I don't know. I'll learn their names. I'll be a different man. I don't know if I can do it, but I'll try. I'll try because you asked me to." She stood up. She picked up the envelope. She walked to the door. And at the door with her hand on the handle, she turned around one more time and she looked at him. The man she had married. The man who had broken her. The man who had chased her across a country to sit in a hotel room alone with his phone off because it was the only honest thing he knew how to do. "Dante." "Yes. I loved you," she said. "For 11 months I loved you. I wanted you to know that. Not because it changes anything, because it's true." He closed his eyes. "Elena," he said, "I am going to love you for the rest of my life." "I know," she said, and then she walked out. She did not look back. She walked down the hallway, down the stairs, out of the hotel, and into the blue car where Don Ricci's driver was waiting with the engine running. She got in. She closed the door. She held the envelope on her lap. "Where to, Signora?" "The airport," she said. "Any flight, anywhere that isn't here." "Yes, Signora." The car pulled away from the curb. Elena did not cry. She did not turn around. She did not take one last look at the hotel window. She just put her hand in her coat pocket and she found her mother's silver cross and she held it in her palm the whole way to the airport. 6 months later, in a small bookstore in Buenos Aires, a woman with short dark hair sat behind the counter reading a newspaper in Spanish. The headline said that a major Italian crime family had collapsed overnight and after the voluntary resignation of its head, a man named Dante Salvatore, who had reportedly turned state's witness and disappeared into protective custody. 11 senators had been indicted. 2 judges had resigned. A cardinal was under investigation. The ledger of evidence anonymously delivered to a journalist in Rome was being called the largest single blow to organized crime in Italian history. The woman behind the counter folded the newspaper. She did not smile. She did not cry. She just set it aside, and she reached under the counter, and she pulled out a silver cross on a thin chain, and she put it on for the first time in 6 months. A customer walked in, a little girl with her mother. The little girl wanted a book about pirates. Piratas, the woman said in the best Spanish she had. Sí, aquí. She led the little girl to the shelf. She picked out a book. She handed it to her. The little girl smiled up at her, toothless and delighted, and for 1 second, Elena Bellini, no Anna Conti, no a woman who had finally earned a new name for herself. For 1 second, she smiled back, and it was the first real smile of her entire life. She did not go back. She never went back. She never would.